Good evening. Feel free to turn this way for the Dharma talk. It's wonderful to be back here together again. When Gautama Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, was wandering, sometimes out on begging rounds or with his disciples, someone might ask him a question or point out a beautiful view that they were walking by. In the suttas, the old Pali suttas, it sometimes says that at that time Gautama Buddha stopped walking and turned and answered the question of the person or looked at the beautiful view. Already there is something valuable here for us. Now in the 21st century, we are often so busy doing 3 or 4 things at once, we don't seem to have time to stop, maybe even to slow down. We want to be able to continue going where we are going, and at the same time perhaps check our cell phone and think about different things. So already this is a valuable lesson. Asked a question, or when something is pointed out, for example, a beautiful view, to stop and consider that question. To stop and enjoy that beautiful view. Of course, the point of Buddhism isn't just to stop walking for a moment and turn our attention to something else. The point of Buddhism and of Buddhist practice is for the mind itself to come to a full and complete stop. To bring to rest the mind, really the body and the mind in its entirety. This, in a sense, is the entrance of genuine Buddhist and Zen Buddhist practice. Without that, we may be sitting in a certain posture, but we're still moving. At least our mind is still moving. So the first thing to get straight is what we do in this practice, in a radical sense, is not to do anything, not to go in any direction at all, but rather to let the very seeking mind itself, the mind that is trying to get somewhere, literally and metaphorically, to let that very mind, and again, in Buddhism this includes everything, what we see, we hear, we smell, taste, physical sensations, walking itself, and of course, the mind, all of that, naturally brought to rest. Then to truly see, this means with all of our senses, not just visually, but to realize, to see what is here. What is here? Oh, don't we see what is here? Consider well. We do and we don't. We see it as we race by looking for something else. To once let that seeking mind itself naturally come to rest again, so that we can truly realize, see what is here. So no magic, no need for being up in the clouds or in some mystical state, but actually to see what is here. Again, this very simple, earthy example from the Pali Suttas of Gautama Buddha stopping, take time to consider a question and to respond to it, or to enjoy a beautiful view. The true beauty, the true dignity that we so seek is found to be under our feet, in front of our eyes, in the depths of our own heart. That's the only place we can really find it. And how do we do that? Not by seeking, but by letting that very seeking come to its own end. This is the basis of Buddhism, of Buddhist practice, and of Zen Buddhist practice. There's one interesting example where Gautama Buddha did not stop. We can take that up tomorrow. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? There's one time when Gautama Buddha did not stop. When was that? Consider well. We will take this up tomorrow. But for now, see from your own experience. You know what it is for your mind to go running 10, 20, 100 miles an hour. And you know what it is for the mind to slow down. That you can become much more calm. Things become much clearer. But what is it for that very seeking mind to come to its own end, to stop? Consider well in the depths of your own practice. Whether sitting itself, again, sitting doesn't mean I'm not moving anymore, because you can be sitting there in perfect full lotus position and your mind can be racing 100 miles an hour. There's a great virtue, a great value in this physical posture. Of course, it doesn't have to be full lotus, but sitting in sustained Zazen, it's precious, very precious. But that in itself doesn't stop the mind, does it? We all know this. What is it for the breath to help us calm, focus, and concentrate? We all have some sense of this, how the breath can bring all of the activities of the body and the mind to a halt. The most delicate point, of course, is the mind. What remains when the body has come to rest and the breath is truly focused and centered, calmed? What remains? We will go through this in some detail in the coming days. For now, does anyone have a question or concern about the physical part of Zazen? The body. Is there an actual problem that you are having physically? Feel free, for the benefit of all, to raise it, because you would be surprised how many other people are perhaps struggling with the same thing. And by bringing it up and working it out together, we can come to a clear resolution, how to put that physical problem to rest. Does anyone have a question or concern about the physical posture? Again, for the benefit of all, please feel free to ask. If not now, you may well have one tomorrow. But see what your body is doing as you are sitting. Are you tensing up, tightening up? There will be pain. Or are you able to release that and to sit through, not mere willpower, but something much more basic, that allows us to sit completely free of tension, for hours, for days. But you must see, realize what your body and your mind, they're not two completely different things, are they? What the body and the mind are doing. Not what you want them to do, or what I've mentioned that they can do, but what is actually going on in your body. If you don't see that, well, you're practicing blindly, aren't you? Again, we're not trying to create some special state, but rather to recognize, to clearly realize what this body, this mind are doing. If you can experience it tightening up and becoming tense, you can experience it loosening up, being released. But if you're simply in your head, you don't even realize what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, oh, my back, my shoulders, somewhere, my knee, it's so painful. Do you see what is going on? If you can really see it, you can see what it is to tighten up. can see what it is, to release it and to loosen it. Huh? But if you're simply in your head thinking about how it's supposed to be, how you want it to be, and so on, well, is there any wonder that all of a sudden you realize, oh, it's not like that at all. Actually, it really hurts. You have to see what you are doing. Nobody else. It's not the Zazen that's doing that. Zazen is not one single thing. Zazen is not tightening up. How can this be uncomfortable? See what your mind is doing. And if you can see it tighten, you can see it release and loosen and come to rest. But you must experience that with your own body and mind, as I like to say, in your bones. Otherwise, it's just a neat idea. Once again, we have a few minutes. Does anyone have a question or concern about the physical practice, something that's bothering you? Yes?
Maybe about the eyes. I can sit with eyes closed and eyes open, but as I understand, it's advised or suggested to have them slightly open, just partially open.
Yes.
And I find it very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite a common problem. I struggled with it for quite some time. We are used to having our eyes open, looking around, doing things, or go to sleep, take a nap. We close our eyes, but this halfway doesn't seem natural. And yet it really is. If you look at someone praying in church, for example, they're usually doing that. Their eyes are not closed. They're often just looking naturally down in front of them. They're not really looking at or for anything, but that's what your eyes would do if you are released from that visual field. In other words, I'm not, trying to close my eyes, maybe close my ears too, then I won't see or hear anything. That's not the problem. It's true, there are many kinds of Buddhist meditation where you close your eyes. But in Zen, it's clearly stated, for example, in the Zazen manual, that the eyes are to be half closed. And once you get used to it, you see how it works. But it does take time because we're not used to it. Eyes open, no problem. Eyes closed, probably go to sleep, no problem. But half, it seems unnatural. But just let it do what it's doing. If you are not engaged in looking at or for anything, your eyes will naturally fall a few feet in front of you. If the discursive mind is still working, then what will happen? You'll start to see patterns on the floor. There's a dragon. But if you just allow your mind to come to rest, the eyes will naturally go like that. If they close, you'll tend to go into a world of dreams or maybe fall asleep. Again, the point is not to go inside any more than it is to go outside. The point is to let that very distinction fall away. So we allow the eyes to remain open a little bit, because if they're open all the way, you'll be paying attention to what's going on here. But you don't close them and try to go into a world of dreams or imagination either. Rather, let the eyes do what they would naturally do if you're not engaged with them. Again, we don't have to close them all the way. We don't close our ears either. If the fire alarm goes off, we hear it. But We're not listening, oh, I want to hear more bird song. We're not listening for anything either. Huh? With the eyes, it's a little different than with the ears, because there's a kind of a conscious focus we do with the eyes, whereas the ears are just kind of open. So it can be difficult, and I've struggled with it for quite some time. But once you enter into a kind of samadhi or concentrated oneness, you'll find your eyes just naturally doing that. And again, we're not looking at or for anything, but we're not closing them either. You'll see it's very valuable, because if you close your eyes and maybe go into a very deep samadhi or even a jhana state, really concentrated state, all well and good, but then when you open your eyes, it's over. And you're now in another state, the waking, ordinary waking state. Well, now you've got two states. Which one is it? So the subtlety of the Zen practice, where the eyes are allowed to be left half open, is difficult in the beginning. It's a kind of a rather mature practice. But once you're stable enough to do that, you see, you're not going off into a special state. So Zazen's over, ding, you get up, the Zazen gets up. It's not, oh, and now I'm awake. No, you follow? It can get to be what it needs to be, which is continuous, the way we are, not just a special state of wide awake looking or falling asleep, but allowing the eyes to just naturally disengage. But they still can function when they need to. So when the Zazen is over, in a way, you're not transferring from one state to another. You're allowing that to continue. So give it some time and allow the eyes just to naturally do that. Naturally do that. You know what it's like when you close them and you get sleepy, right? Or dream. And you know what it's like if you start comparing the Zazen of everybody in the room, right? No. You don't have to do either one. Just let the eyes do what they would do if you're not engaged, if you're not seeking something with them. They'll do that. Okay? If it's really a problem and you can stay focused, you can close your eyes, there's no big deal. But there's a good reason that they recommend that the eyes be half closed. Give it some time and see, okay? And again, I'm sure several people here have struggled with the same thing I did, I remember, for a long time. But as you deepen and sustain samadhi, you see, your eyes will just do that. They'll just do that. Okay? Do you want to say anything else, Peter?
Well, there's an imbalance with my left and my right eye.
Mm-hmm. Nothing to do with
One
it.
tends to close down and the other can...
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
So not the vision itself, but one tends to
Yeah,
close and one tends to stay
close,
open.
the other tends to stay open.
Wouldn't worry about it.
When I have to open the
That's what short toothpicks are for, No, you don't really have to worry about that. Yeah, because again, we're not fixating, we're not looking at anything. So just let the eyes do what they would do. Huh? Okay. And thank you for your question.
What if when we go in Kinhin, then there are many impressions coming, and how do I play with this?
You don't have to play with it, just Kinhin. The sitting now gets up, and then you turn and you will follow the feet of Peter, right? I will follow Tyson. It's exactly the same thing. Looking down a few feet in front of you, but this time it's the foot of the person in front of you. And you simply watch. When he moves, you move. if we go outside, and here it's pretty
Yeah,
simple.
yes.
But when you're going outside, you have to be a little more free to negotiate. Is there a car coming if you're crossing the street? Or you may look around. In principle, you're not out there to look around and enjoy the view. You're out there to continue the practice in a simple physical movement, walking. Again, simply following the footstep of the person in front of you. So it's a kind of a simple Zazen movement, if you will. And instead of just looking down here, you're simply following the foot of the person in front of you. You take a look, it's a beautiful view, a nice sunset or whatever. It's not going to, if your practice is stable, it's not really going to matter. But we're not out there, now, to enjoy the view. It's there. If you want to look, nobody's going to hit you. But really what we're doing is simply following the footstep of the person in front of us. Why are we doing that? Well, we're taking the Zazen into a simple physical movement, a very practical one, walking. But the point is to sustain that concentration. And the eyes are doing the same thing, right? Looking a few feet in front, but this time just following the foot of the person in front. It's a very simple but effective way of allowing that focus in Zazen to be carried out in a physical movement. You follow? Okay.